Hey everybody, David Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Amanda C. Watt. She's a returning guest, back for a second time. And, we were talking pre-interview. What are we going to talk about today? We were thinking about different topics, different ideas. And she mentioned a phrase that I thought was so magnetic and so interesting. It's really going to set the stage for today. It is about the 4-day work week for the modern accounting firm owner. What does it look like? How do you get there? We're going to explore that and so much more. But first, Amanda, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Super chuffed to be back.
Yeah, great. And so for folks that didn't listen to the first episode, briefly describe what do you do today? And, we know the focus is accounting firm owners, but what's the typical size you work with? Like, walk us through your business a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working with accounting firms since I'd say 5 years now. The reason I started working with accounting firm owners is my dad's a tax technician, ran his own firm, really struggled. He still charges £35 an hour for his services. So I can't get him over to the bright side. He's still at the dark side. But he said to me a while ago, as he was starting to retire, Amanda, you could really help the profession. Can you jump in? And I said, okay, I'll give it a go, Dad. And because I'm not an accountant, I have to say that up front. I failed my accounting exams. I am a huge lover of business, specifically marketing and sales. I love that. And more latterly, systems and scaling and accounting practice. So some of the clients I've worked with have been with me for 5 years or more, and I've been on an amazing journey. Ideal clients are someone who has a small team, so 2 or 3 people up to size of 10, maybe, has too many clients. So it has maybe 200, 300, 500 clients. Someone who has way too many clients and not earning enough money from them. That's my ideal client. Someone who really wants to change from what is, I call a monster practice, into having a freedom practice, which is that 4-day work week that we were mentioning, David.
Yeah, for a point of comparison, so we'll call it the status quo firm. What is the staff to client ratio? Is it like 30 clients to 1 staff? And then do you take it down to 5 clients per 1 staff? Like, what's that shift look like from a ratio perspective?
Yeah, so I can't stick to one ratio because there's a few different practice models that I get my clients to do. So the first thing that we do when we work with clients is say, what kind of practice do you want? Do you want a practice which is quite traditional, compliance-led, where you're charging maybe £3,000 to £5,000 or dollars a year for those services? If they are that kind of client, then we're looking at maybe 4 team members per 100 clients, 150 clients, something like that. If we are looking at something called leveraged advisory, and I would love to dive into that a little bit more, David, as we talk about this 4-day work week. I teach, this one's going to blow your listeners' minds. I teach my accountants how to serve 300, 400 people as a team of them on their own with an admin person. Okay, so that's a team of 2, 300 or 400 people, charging these people 10 grand a year to work with them. So it is very easy to grow a practice and introduce advisory in a leveraged way once an accountant gets their head around it. Now, I'm not saying that their entire practice can be leveraged that way. 80% of their advisory can be. They still have to have conversations with their clients one-on-one. So there isn't a typical, David. You've got the typical accounting firm, the traditional way of running the firm. Then you've got what we're starting to do here at Oomph Global, which is the business that I run. What we're starting to do is show accountants how to do the leveraged advisory, free up their time, work with clients one-to-many, and make good money, like good profits. I can help people make money. I can do that easily, but actually it's helping people make profits and have better take-home pay whilst not working too hard. That's the holy grail, and that's what I focus on.
Now, is it possible to have a 4-day work week and run this compliance practice you had talked about? Like, have you seen that work where you kind of have this, I'll call it old school compliance business, but you have the systems intact to the point where you could take off Friday? Or is it like in that world, it is nearly impossible to do something like that? You have to go into leveraged advisory.
It's absolutely possible. One thing that I would love all of your listeners to get their head around is they can be an accountant, but if they want to run an accounting firm, they have to transition into being a CEO, which means that they stop being a technician and start looking after their team and systemizing. That way, they can have a 4-day work week. They can have Friday off, they can have Monday off, they can have 2 half days, they can pick the kids up from school, as long as they have a well-oiled machine. And the well-oiled machine won't happen unless they start pulling themselves out of the weeds, stop being the technician. The problem with most firms is most of them have been run by someone who's gone, oh my gosh, I can't stand working at the big four. I can do this better. I'm going to set up my own firm. And all they end up doing is having a job, which leaves them just over broke, by the way. That's what job stands for.
So 4 days. So to transition, let's paint the picture, I guess. I'm now whether I have this title formally or not, the CEO of the accounting firm. I work 4 days a week.
Yep.
What am I doing in those 4 days that is
Great
not
question.
the in the weeds stuff that I left behind?
Yeah, great question. So something that I learned from one of my mentors was something called done by 10:30. And done by 10:30 is where 2 to 3 times a week, you set yourself 3 50-minute timers. Okay. And in those 50-minute timers, you do things that grow the practice, or you look at hiring people, or you look at systemizing something. And it might mean that you start work at 7:30, 3 times a week, but you're done by 10:30. Okay, so straight away, you have probably done more work in those 9 hours during the week than you ever would have done if you'd gone into the office at 9 o'clock and worked till 6 o'clock like a traditional accountant. So if you can be done by 10:30, then the rest of your day can be looking after your team. You need to have team member meetings. So if you do have a team of 20 people, you need to be having meetings with the head of the departments that look after those 20 people. And you need to do that daily. You need to have daily huddles. That will take you about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's all, just that. A weekly pod meeting. So you have, I've started to call them pods. So you have the practice manager, then underneath the practice manager, you have different department heads, head of tax, head of accounting. Underneath there, they might have a couple of team members, and you have meetings with the pod people. And then once you've done that, you know your team are running. Then what you do is you're speaking to maybe a couple of key accounts that you still look after, because you don't want to completely pull yourself out of it, because you like working on the advisory side maybe, and you have a couple of those meetings. At the end of the day, your job is to make sure that the machine keeps functioning, which means it's conversations with your team members, it's systemizing everything, looking at what's breaking, and going back to where I started 5 years ago and is my absolute passion, making sure you are on top of the marketing and sales, bringing in the good clients. So a typical working week, to recap very quickly, is 3 sessions of 3 hours, 50-minute timers, like work, like switch everything off. 3 sessions of 3 hours. That will give you the opportunity to do everything you need to work on the business. Then it's looking after your team, systemizing, and showing up, meeting people, having conversations, building relationships, and just being the person that is overseeing everything, but not doing the technician work.
Got it. Love it. Yeah. And the examples are amazing in that it's growth, it's people, it's systems. So like, where's your big opportunity as the firm? Is it to add those new clients? Is it to add the best clients? Is it to run a new marketing campaign? Is there a key hire you need to think about or support or help recruit or speak at places to then pull in applicants? Or last but not least, of course, is there a system that if you tweak it, if you optimize it, it could drive more profit, for your business, better client satisfaction, better client retention? That's amazing. Final question I'll ask about this CEO world, because it is, outside the actual 3 letters of CEO, these are the other favorite 3 letters of CEOs, which is KPIs. And so what metrics would a CEO of their firm be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first metric I would want a CEO to look at is the number of hours they are working, because what happens is we do something called a CDS review. So it's what can you cut, what can you delegate, what can you systemize? So the first thing that you do as the CEO is do a CDS review. So if they are checking email, if they're responding to client stuff, is that something they need to cut out? Is it something they delegate? Is it something they systemize? Because we can't actually do KPIs until we see the mess that the practice is in to start with. Okay, so once we're clear and we're delegating and systemizing, we have to give those that we're delegating KPIs to hit. So the marketing department will have KPIs, the sales department will have KPIs, the fulfillment department will have KPIs, and those KPIs might change depending on the firm, because the marketing that one firm's doing, say Facebook advertising, which actually most firms don't need to do. So I'm not saying go out and do Facebook advertising, but if that is something they're doing, it's going to be very different from the firm that has decided to run quarterly events and fill events to share their expertise. So the KPIs are split into marketing, sales, and fulfillment. And then underneath that, it's all bespoke for the kind of firm that each of the CEO accountants would like to run.
Yeah, I am so happy with your response. I feel like it's a common trap. And believe me, I've been there, done that, where you think you can have like one dashboard to rule them all, right? And it's just, I think you really need to think, I totally agree, think about kind of these functional KPIs, and that drives a lot more accountability and freedom for that team, right? If that team, if you say the cost per lead we need, or a client acquisition cost, or the throughput or turnaround time we need for blah is this, then you can allow them to kind of run and think about and ideate and how to make that happen. And that's really empowering for the firm owner.
I'd love to just also speak to the firm owners about their team. So we're so often focused on, I must hit my marketing goals, I must hit my sales goals, I must look after my clients. But actually, most firm owners' biggest asset is their team. And when we have our monthly team meeting, at the end of it, I say to the managers, I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? I say, and I want you to be honest. And I'll always say something like, right now I'm feeling at a 4 or a 5, and I'd give them the opportunity to not have a high number. Okay. And then I would say to them, what will get you to a 10? What do you feel is missing? And what really happens then is that sparks a really good conversation between the 5 or 6 department heads that I have my monthly meeting with. And we all start to go, why aren't we happy? What is missing in the business? And it's amazing. And we spend all this time going, I must hit my marketing KPIs, I must hit my sales KPIs, but our team are our gold. And we need to actually have KPIs where our team are 10 out of 10 happy, and we need to get them to that stage. So actually, one of the most important KPIs is out of 10, how happy are your team? That would be a really good one for them to keep an eye on.
I love it. Kind of this employee net promoter score for folks that kind of follow that concept. How likely are you to refer this firm, this product to other people, right? Scale 1
and
to 10.
who freaking does it? Who actually asks their team if they're happy? No one. No one actually says, are you happy with what's going on? And the biggest problem that I see firms having at the moment is not actually getting better clients, it's getting better team. And actually what we need to do is keep our current team members and keep them happy. Otherwise, they're going to go to a better firm. So it's look after your team, and then you will have the brain space to go out and build the firm that you really want, because you won't lay awake at night going, oh my gosh, I can't fulfill all these clients.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I think when you ask that question. So, for example, I know an owner that asked their team this question, and look, we're living through, I guess, what's been called the Great Resignation. The industry, the accounting industry, is going through a lot of turnover right now. So I think it's on top of everybody's mind. And when we kind of think about this score, we would assume that compensation is the thing that comes up. And to be honest, compensation will come up. It will come up, but it's, there's other things that do matter. And it is like just, burnout or work-life balance. And once it's on your radar as the firm owner, you could probably catch it a lot faster, because a lot of people hire a lot of like nice and friendly and kind people, and they will just say yes to whatever they could possibly do to help another team member. But when you know these things, you get to safeguard people's time and cut it off and say, love that you volunteered for this. Like, just pause it. It's a no. Let's defer it. We got to focus on X, Y, and Z.
And we really need to understand what makes our team members tick. So the reason I started my business was because my daughter wasn't very well. And at a moment's notice, we could end up in hospital with her. She's fixed now and better now, which is amazing. Just before COVID, we ended up having an op and it was great. But for me, the reason I ran my own practice, I know it's not an accounting practice, but a consulting practice. The reason I did that was because at a moment's notice, I had to be able to drop everything and be with my daughter. And they will have employees that have problems that are similar to that. They might have family that need them. They might have young children. And knowing that you're supplying someone the opportunity to go, I have to go, my son is sick, is more important sometimes than saying, I'll give you an extra $3,000 if you stay. And understanding what's going on in your team's personal life will enable you to do the right thing for them. One thing that we instigated with one of my clients here in the UK is they had team members that were really into fitness. So what he did is say, instead of giving you more money, what I'm going to do is say, come in at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday so that you can go to the gym in a quiet time. How does that sound? And they were like, that's amazing. So for them, they get to come in a bit later and go to the gym when it's quieter than if they go in the evening at the end of work. And that really worked well with client retention because they felt they were being heard.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I want to talk about leverage advisory. You've mentioned this term a few times, and I think it's really critical if you want to have the 4-day week. So we've talked about advisory on the podcast before. It's almost impossible to be in this space and not say the word at least once a day to remain kind of, relevant and noticed. Well, what do you mean by leveraged advisory, and how would you define it, and how would you approach it?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so leveraged advisory. First of all, I would love to give your listeners a bit of a lesson. And the lesson is, please do not go out telling people that you're an advisor, because the real business people out there who are not accountants have no idea what an advisor is. They know what consultants are. They know what coaches are. They have no idea what a business advisor is. So first lesson, if you're going to sell advisory, please don't sell advisory, sell a transformation, sell the fact that you're a consultant. That is going to be a lot easier for your ideal clients to get their head around. And what you need to understand if you are going to offer advisory is that you're not competing with other accountants, because most of them don't know how to market that. You're not competing with it. You're competing with business coaches and business consultants. So that's the first thing. But there are actually a few levels of advisory, and the ones that are probably the least profitable are the ones that you have been told are very profitable. So if you are offering compliance, whether it be compliance as a generalist or compliance as a niche, if you systemize really well, you can actually squeeze quite good profits out of that. If you
what's a good margin you've seen from compliance?
Say that again, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, but what's a good margin you've seen from compliance? You said if you really get your systems down, you can actually squeeze out a good margin, or good profit.
Yeah. So with compliance, you can hit 40% profits if you systemize the bejesus out of it. Okay. You have to be really good. And what you want to do is not be scared to charge for compliance. So I work with people that charge £800 a year for it. And for exactly the same service, I get them to then charge $3,000. Okay. So straight away, it's like, I'll work with you if you put that price up to $3,000, and they go, okay. And then they're making huge freaking profits for absolutely no extra work. So confidence in pricing is key. All right. So first of all, general compliance, you can have better profits. You can buy more time with general compliance. So what you do is you get more clients, you get more team, so then you can buy more time. So you can't make more of your time, but you can buy more time. Then people, accountants, have been sold the holy grail of advisory. Now, advisory is great. Advisory is amazing because it transforms the life of your clients. So as a business advisor, you are going to make a difference to them, which makes you more valuable. I've spoken about that before in the last podcast about being vital and about being valuable. And it's great. But do you know what? The downside of one-on-one advisory. So David, imagine you're a client of mine and I've said, right, for $30,000 a year, I'm going to be giving you advice. I'm going to be helping you grow your business. And we're going to meet once a month and have a conversation. And I'm going to do all this work for you. You're time limited. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm speaking to you every month, and then I'm speaking to another 30 people every single month. I'm not doing a 4-day week. I'm going great and I'm overworked. I'm not underpaid, but I'm overworked. Okay, so this holy grail of advisory is literally we're teaching accountants how to have a faster horse instead of showing them how to have a motor car, if we want to use that metaphor. So we're trying to bolt on all these things to help an accounting firm, but actually, is that what is the right way to do it? Okay, so now I want to talk to you about leveraged advisory. And leveraged advisory is 80% of the advisory work you do in a one-to-many scenario. So there are different stages in leveraged advisory depending on confidence and how long you have been doing advisory. So someone who has been in industry and has been advising businesses for 20 years will find this really easy. Someone who's a bookkeeper and wants to start offering advisory would find it more difficult. So let me share the levels with you. The first level is every single question that you get asked by a client. Instead of answering it 3 times to different clients, you record a video and here is your answer. Okay, so you have a big vault, you can store it in Google Drive if you want to, of recorded videos of typical questions. How do I use Xero? How do I look at my profit and loss in Xero? How do I do all these things? Oh, look, here is a video to explain it. And then you have an admin person that looks after that. So that takes you straight out of that. Okay, so having an FAQ library is the first way to do it. The second way to do it is, and my client Nishi is doing this at the moment, and he's been trialing it for 3 months and it's worked brilliantly, is he has something called office hours. So every 2 weeks, what he does is he says, I am online on Zoom between 1 and 3 o'clock, something like that. Come on Zoom, ask me questions and I'll answer it. And we'll all be together and we'll brainstorm ideas together on how to grow your business. Working exceptionally well. It's freed up, I don't know, something like, I think it's about 10 hours a week of his time by having this office hours. Again, that takes you down to a 4-day work week if you're freeing up 10 hours a week of advisory. All right, so that's second level. Third level is masterminding. So David, I'm sure you've heard of masterminds. I'm sure you're probably part of a mastermind, but accountants don't run masterminds themselves. And it's a great moneymaker without a lot of pressure. So a mastermind, for those who don't know what it is, you get a group of people together, you have someone facilitate that group, but it's not about come along and learn something, it's how can the people in the group support other people in the group and help them through their challenges. So if you've got an accountant that doesn't feel confident as an advisor, but would like to offer some kind of advisory support, they could start a mastermind, get together 8 business owners in a room, facilitate it and say to business owner number 1, what's your challenge? They'll share their challenge and the other 7 people can answer it. They will be credited with having the solution, despite the fact that they haven't actually given the answers. Now you can charge for a mastermind anywhere between £50 a month up to, by the way, I pay this, $5,000 a month. Okay, to be part of a mastermind. So you get it right and that happens. And then finally, the holy grail, but it is hard work, is an online group consulting program. So you package up all of your knowledge, you create a methodology, you record training videos, and then you get people to sign up to those. You can charge the earth for them, or you can charge pennies for them. It's totally up to you. Everything's pre-recorded and your clients can take themselves through that. And then you can show up for Q&A calls. So they're kind of the different levels that you can have with leveraged advisory. Now, whilst leveraged advisory is something that we've trademarked in the accounting profession, it has been for years and years and years used by other people. I offer leveraged advisory. Okay, it's consulting, but we call it leveraged advisory for the accountants. And it really is a fantastic way to spend a couple of hours in delivery every single week. And other than that, you're working as the CEO, growing your practice. It takes you down to 4 days a week. You can have £1 million practice or $1 million practice working a few days a week with you and a couple of admin support and maybe a bookkeeper doing some compliance for your clients. If you've got 30 clients and they're paying you 10 grand a year, you're going to have huge profits because you're not paying a team. You're going to be taking home more pay, and then you can invest that into property and stocks and shares and make more money that way than trying to run a practice with thousands of clients and thousands of team members.
I
There you
love it.
go. Gosh, you must be exhausted. I just yapped at you. You didn't say a word. I'm so sorry.
No, I let you run with it. I wanted to know all the levels because it sets the stage for, the follow-up. And I think my number one question here is that everything sounds good, but if somebody's listening, they haven't gotten into this world before, what's an example, like how are people, your clients or others positioning this? Is it, I'm going to give you this CFO mentality for your business. I'm going to help you with cash flow forecasting. What are the words or how do they approach the value to the market? Because the value of compliance is, don't get fined, don't go to jail. The value of cash flow forecasting is don't run out of money. But for coaching, consulting, you have to get something bigger. So what are they saying to the market to get people to sign up? You will join and get what?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we talk about ROI, and there are only really a few real ROIs. One is make money, one is save money, one is reduce stress, and the other one is reduce time. Now, if you as the accountant can consult and do one of those four things, you have something that is saleable. Then what we have to do is, because there's only four things, so every accountant in the world will cotton on to this eventually, and they'll sell that, okay? But what we then have to do is create your own methodology underneath that transforms your clients' pains. So I talk about creating a signature system with our clients. And what we do is we look at how over 12 to 36 months, what is it that you could work on within a business that would help that business move the needle and help them make money. Now, the first thing is pricing. And an accountant might suddenly go, right, I'm going to switch off from what you're saying, Amanda. I can't help people with pricing. I'm an accountant. But I would like to say to you, Mr. or Mrs. Accountant, you sure can help with pricing because you're the one that knows if their pricing is profitable. You know which product lines are making them money, which product lines are costing them money. And what you need to do is advise around that. And that is priceless because you could make or save tens of thousands of pounds just by analyzing the numbers or showing, like you don't actually have to do it yourself, showing your clients through recorded videos where to find the answers to these numbers. And it's something that I do all the time is what's my most profitable product? How much time does it take me to deliver it? How much time does it take me to, how much does it cost for me to deliver it? And what are my profits? And actually, it's very, very clear that my most expensive product is not the most profitable in profit, but it is my most profitable in time. So what's my priority? Do I want more time or do I want more profit? I actually want more time. Like I'm 47. I'm like, I like my life, but I also like to work a 4-day week. So does that make sense? David,
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So the way I'm thinking about it, so I love your example of pricing because accounting firms can create documentation, videos, coaching on how to read inventory or how to read the books or read whatever kind of reports you're typically looking at and yield and pull out insights and benchmarks for these SMB or these business owners to use, and then drive them to increase prices or double down on this product or cut this one. So you can, so one lane you could go down is helping them become I guess more, I would say like this, you're the marketing expert, like metric driven, so, more scientific about their business. When people do these consulting groups, do they niche down? Do they say, for interior designers? Is that typically the way people do this?
Yeah. So one thing I want to kind of, I don't want to shout at accountants about it, but I just want to shake them because they don't realize how daft most business owners are. Okay, so accountants have spent years studying and learning what they have had to learn to pass their exams. They've become CPAs, they've been qualified, all of these things. They don't realize that most business owners don't even know whether or not they've got money in the bank. They might see 100K in the bank, but they don't realize that 80 of it is going to the tax man. Okay, so first of all, accountants, please, I want to shake you because you know so much more than the majority of business owners. So confidence is key. That's the first thing. All right. Then the second thing, let's go back to your niching question. If you are an expert in a particular industry, you get better and better over time. David, you and I spoke about that before we came on live. You said to me, what is it that we're going to be covering today? I said, 5 years ago, I was known for sales and marketing. My clients have asked me for more about systemizing, about advisory, about support, about getting back their time over the 5 years. Because I've only worked with accountants and bookkeepers for 5 years, I understand their business so well that I can help them with those things. If I'd been a generalist marketing and salesperson, 5 years down the line, I'd only ever be better at marketing and sales because I wouldn't understand one industry really, really well. Okay, so I become more valuable to my clients because I know them better and better. And actually, I've worked very closely with about 600 clients in the past few years. So I know how an accounting firm runs really well. If I'd worked with 600 clients across multiple industries, I'd know a little bit about every industry.
Yeah.
All right. So niching is definitely the way to providing more value, and value makes you more valuable. And if you're more valuable, you can charge more for your services.
Got it. Well, final question, because I know we're gonna have to wrap up soon, but is this a sequential journey for many? Like, do you recommend that you start with do one-on-one, solidify your process, deliver results, then leverage up? Or do you say, no, just go for the one-to-many coaching?
With the advisory that I do, with the consulting I do get to know my group coaching clients one-on-one. So I spend quite a lot of time with them. And I would say it's very bespoke. So I have clients who have come to me that have been outsourced CFOs. And they've come to me and they're like, Amanda, I'm interested in the leverage advisory. And I say, go for it, even if they don't have clients already, because they have the experience and the confidence to go for it. You might find another accounting firm owner who's been working for 30 years and has never done advisory before, has no idea how or what to say. And I would say, let's start with one-on-one and build your confidence and your knowledge. So it really depends where they come from, not the kind of size of firm they're running or, whether they're new or established. It's more about their experience. So the very experienced ones can straight away go into leveraged advisory. They've got it. They understand. They see big picture. Those who are new to advisory, I'd say definitely start with one-to-one. You've got to learn how to be an advisor, and you can't do that from a textbook. You have to do it through being ingrained in businesses.
I love it. Makes a lot of sense. Well, I think we covered a lot of territory today. We talked about the team a lot. We talked about leverage advisory and so much more. But if somebody wants to reach out, say thank you, connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, the best way is Google Amanda C. Watts. Don't forget the C. Amanda C. Watts, and you'll find my LinkedIn will come up. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a really good place to connect. And the other thing, David, I've written a book called Practice Growth Superpowers. I'm going to give you the link, and it talks in depth about leveraged advisory. And anyone who's listened to this who would like a copy of that book, that link, they can then get a free copy of the book. Here in the UK, we'll send you a hard copy. If you're in America, then we will send you a PDF. Sorry. But it's a great book. So they can download a copy of the book if that's all right, David.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so if somebody's been writing down a bunch of notes and you want to connect with Amanda through LinkedIn, or you want to grab the book link, you can go to jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll link everything up, even the prior interview as well. So it's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. If you enjoyed this interview, leave a positive review, help get the word out. If you really loved it, share it with a fellow firm owner that needed to hear something today. If they're trapped in the 7-day work week or 6-day work week and they needed to hear this, definitely send them this interview. Amanda, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.